What is up, everyone, and welcome to some more F1 23 My Team Career Mode. Last time out, we were at the Spanish Grand Prix, and after a very strong qualifying performance, we couldn't quite match up to the pace we showed in qualifying. We did end up coming home with a P6 finish, so I was pretty happy about that in the end. After a hard-fought race with the world champions Verstappen, Russell, and Alonso, we managed to beat all three of them. Or rather, we managed to contend with all three of them. We got beaten by them in the end. Yeah, we managed to race with all of them, at least somewhat competitively. And I'm hoping that in this race we can just continue that sort of competitive form that we were showing as we move into the Canadian Grand Prix. It's going to be this weekend, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's not a race I typically go particularly well at, but you never know. We get the news that Fernando Alonso is going to be retiring from Formula 1 at the end of the season. I can't say it's too much of a surprise because you know, this is season 2 after all, and he's in his mid 40s at this point. He's won a race this season in Monaco, and looking honestly like he might be a championship contender. So maybe he's trying to do a win the championship and retire type scenario. Obviously, it's been 17, 18 years now since his last world championship win, because this is technically 2024. We're in season 2, so yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how Alonso looks for the rest of the season now. But yeah, for us, like I said, Canadian Grand Prix, not one of my strongest circuits, one I typically have struggled with historically. So I'm just gonna try and see if we can get into the top 10, maybe grab like an 8th or a 9th, grab a few points, and try and work our way back up the Constructors' Championship order towards Alpine to try and take P6 off of them, because that is where we are targeting finishing this season, is going to be P6 in the Constructors' Championship. Anything more than that is just going to be a cash bonus that we get at the end of the season. But yeah, P6 is the aim, and well, it looks like it's going to be dry all weekend, which is nice because Canada is a little bit you know, rain prone, I guess, is probably the best way of describing it. It will rain a little bit during practice, but that's not really a big deal, you know. Maybe I'll get some of the practice programs out of the way in the wet, but obviously I'll do that coveted race strategy program in the dry, because that's the only way that you can really be sure that your race strategy is going to be any good, is if you do it in the conditions that you're actually going to be racing in. Otherwise, there's not really much you can take away from doing that program. You basically just wasted running doing that. So yeah, we move into practice now, and well, I can tell you before we even see the results screen, my pace here was not looking particularly good. We did move into dry conditions after having some rain, and I did do some running in the dry, but we ended up not even in the top 14 here, as you know, Hulkenberg there topping the session, so very strong performance from him. But yeah, it was 20th and 21st for myself and Hauger, which is not really what I was hoping for. You know, I know that I was only running on the mediums, obviously, but still, I had a lot of people, including people who were in what I would perceive to be slower cars, going a little bit faster than me. So yeah, not fantastic. Obviously, we had both of the upgrades we were hoping to get on the car fail, but we are going to be reinvesting in those, which is good, because as you can see, we are now the 3rd slowest car on the grid. Alpine have actually fallen to become the worst car on the grid. So any result that the Gasly and Ocon are getting for that team is going to be very hard earned at this point. Meanwhile, McLaren have worked their way out to being the 5th fastest team, Ferrari a 7th in the standings, Haas a 3rd. You know, we really actually do have a mixed up order for a change, and it feels like it is making a difference. I feel like Ferrari haven't been as good this season. I feel like Haas have been really good this season. Alonso certainly, and that Aston Martin has been looking particularly good as well. Maybe not so much Stroll. I don't really feel like he's got many results that you could really be that impressed by. I think he's had a few podiums. I can't remember if it was this season or last season. But yeah, either way, it is now time for us to get into qualifying for the Canadian Grand Prix, and we'll see if we can once again make it through to Q3, and yeah, maybe get that sort of top 8 that I was looking at. We'll see whether it proves to be possible or not, as we now go on our first flying lap of Q1 on a fresh set of soft compound tyres, and it is going to be a 1:10.6 to open our account. We're behind the likes of Alonso and Magnussen, but we are ahead of Sainz and Perez for the time being, so it's looking like we're relatively decent on pace. And yeah, I ended up going out on the same set of tyres again. It wasn't amazing. I think we ended up, where are we? Like P12-ish looking at this, unless someone else beats me. But as we cross the line, it's P12, and I think that's going to stick as is. Yeah, P12 to end things off. So I'm pretty happy with that. And yeah, a good result through to Q2. Hopefully we can find a bit more form in Q2 to make it through to Q3. Obviously we need to improve by maybe another 10th or so. As you can see, both Alfa Romeos there in the top 10. Impressive performance coming out from both Joe and Tsunoda. Maybe there'll be a Q3 feature, who knows. But it is De Vries, Sargent, Hauger P19, and then Fittipaldi, Ocon and Hulkenberg eliminated in Q1. Hulkenberg in last, a ridiculously poor performance from him, given that they're in the third fastest car. You would expect him to at least be making Q3, really. So for him to go out in last is pretty terrible, honestly. But, you know, we're through now into Q2, and we're on a fresh set of soft compound tyres, and it's going to be another 1:10.6. So it seems to be that I'm setting pretty consistent lap times here, but I don't know if that's going to be good enough to see us through into Q3. I think we might need to find a little bit of improvement, and fortunately it seems like we do. We find about a 10th or so, which is all that we really need. So yeah, that is going to be good enough, I think, to get us through. Maybe we'll have to see, I suppose, because it might not have been enough. We were hovering about 11th, but we ended up coming 9th, so that 1/10 was enough in the end. Yeah, we were looking like we might get 10th or 11th with the time we had before, but yes, we do manage to progress at the behest of Norris, and also Leclerc, Tsunoda, Joe, Piastri, and Gasly. So yeah, Tsunoda and Joe, after that strong Q1 showing, they couldn't repeat it, but Albon actually ended up topping that session in the AlphaTauri, so a ridiculously strong performance from him. And then, you know, you had both Mercedes, both Astons, both Red Bulls. I think Sainz was P2, and then Magnussen got through along with me as well. So yeah, not a particularly mixed up Q3 from what you'd expect, apart from Albon being P1 in Q2, of course. We'll see if he can repeat that feat, and maybe he can get a pole position here in Q3. But we're on a fresh set of soft compound tyres to kick things off. It's a 1:10.8, and that's not particularly good. And now we're out of fresh tyres as well, because I've used all 4 compounds, because I thought some rain might have been coming in Q3. It never really came, and so I ended up going out on the same set of tyres again. And actually, we managed to find quite a lot of improvement, which made me wonder what we could have done had we gone out on another fresh set, had we had one. But, you know, we're still finding over 4/10 here, so I think we're going to maybe move ahead of Stroll here at the very least. I don't know if I'm quite on for that 1:10.1 that Bottas has set, but we'll see where we are in relation to Perez. We're 5/10 up as we come around the final corner. It's going to be a 1:10.2, just about, and that is good enough for P7. So we do get that top 8 that we were looking for, and yeah, we are going to be starting 7th for the Canadian Grand Prix.
We're all ready for tomorrow's race, but before we begin, let's have a quick look at those who will be fronting the grid. Russell,
Fernando Alonso,
and Carlos Sainz. Goodbye for now then, but we are really just getting started. Make sure you join us again for Lights Out tomorrow.
Yeah, a very solid result from us. George Russell, the reigning world champion, getting pole by 4/10 of a second. Very impressive stuff from him. And then you got the likes of Alonso, Sainz, Verstappen, Magnussen, Bottas ahead of me as well. So yeah, with like Bottas and Magnussen starting ahead of me, and also Sainz, to be fair, there is a chance, I think, here that I could probably get a top 5, maybe, if we can showcase good pace. I feel like I could definitely beat a couple of these guys. I think Alonso, Verstappen, and Russell certainly will be too difficult to beat. I think they'll showcase just a bit too much pace. After all, you know, the Aston Martin is the fastest car on the grid, followed by the Mercedes. The Red Bull has fallen down to 4th, I believe, but you know, when it's being driven by someone with the caliber of Max Verstappen, anything is possible, really. And yeah, we'll see if we can convert this into a strong points finish. Maybe even if we get a good result here, we could jump Alpine in the standings today. So we'll see what we can do as we get into the Canadian Grand Prix.
Lights Out in Canada is approaching at a venue where the island was built for the 1967 World's Fair. The world has gathered once again. Welcome to the Canadian Grand Prix. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. George Russell will begin today's event in pole position, and it's Fernando Alonso alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Sainz, Verstappen, Magnussen, Bottas, Robinson, Perez, Stroll, Albon, Norris, Leclerc, Tsunoda, Joe, De Vries, Sargent, Hauger, Fittipaldi, Ocon, Hulkenberg, Oscar Piastri, and Pierre Gasly picks up the final grid slot today. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out then. Let's see who can prevail today.
Right then, it's time for us to get into the race proper, and the first matter is the strategy, and the game is actually suggesting this time that I do a hard medium as opposed to a medium hard. We've tried this strategy before and it really doesn't work in history. You know, we did it in the first few races of the season, and I think we did it a couple times in the end of the previous season. And the only time it ever worked was when there was like a red flag or something like that, so it wasn't really relevant. But in any race where there wasn't a red flag or a safety car or anything like that helped us sort of change our strategy, it didn't really make much sense in my opinion. So yeah, I've kind of blindly trusted it, but I'm wondering maybe I should have altered it. I don't know if I'm going to quite be able to contend with these guys if I'm on a slower compound of tyres. I think the only other driver in this top 7, maybe even the whole top 10 that's on hards is Sainz. So we'll see what our pace is like compared to his as the lights come on. And the lights go out. And we've had a very good getaway compared to Valtteri Bottas there. He basically went nowhere off the start. And we're actually challenging Verstappen into turn 1 here as well. He had a poor getaway by the looks of things. He qualified, I think, 4th. And already he's been jumped by Sainz and Magnussen. And now we're looking like we might jump him as well. So there could be 3 positions lost for Verstappen here, potentially. As we try and go around the outside of him now. And yeah, we do actually manage to make the move stick for the time being. Sainz moving away now. Magnussen up onto the podium as well. So he's having a very strong start to this race. I think he was in 5th. At the beginning. So yeah, it's a good start for him, a good start for Sainz, and a good start for myself. But Verstappen is now coming back at us up the inside. We do manage to hold him off just about. He can't quite make the move stick on this occasion. But yeah, pretty nervy there. We're already out of Sainz's DRS range, so I think 5th might be the maximum we're getting here, and we're going to have to do a pretty big defensive masterclass to be able to stay ahead of these Red Bulls. They're much faster than we are at the moment. That said, though, we do manage to get back in Sainz's DRS range for the time being. I don't know if it's just that he's on the hard tyres or what's going on there, but yeah, it seems like he was a little bit slow through the hairpin. And so we do manage to close him down for the time being, but I'm sure it will only be a matter of time before he pulls away from us, as George Russell leads Alonso through the first lap, and we're currently running in P5. A very, very solid start to the race. If we can get this level of points in this race, along with the Alpines failing to score, then we will take P6 in the Constructors as things currently stand. We're putting some pressure on Carlos Sainz now as we move into the beginning of lap 5 it will be. And actually it's looking like we might be close enough to go for a move here. Should we try and go up the inside? I think we're going to. And yeah, in the end we're going wheel to wheel through the first couple of corners. We bang wheels a little bit there. But yeah, no damage caused to either of us, just a light tap. And we make our way through and up into P4, so perhaps showing a little bit more pace than I thought we might. Seem to be pretty equal with the Ferraris in terms of pace at the beginning of the race here on the hard compound tyres. Seems like the people on the mediums might just be a little bit faster than me at the moment. You can see that Alonso and Russell have already moved about 5 seconds ahead or so. But now we're looking at Nick De Vries, and he's binned it into a wall. That is very disappointing for him. But his race is completely over in what is quite a competitive AlphaTauri now. And that, of course, brought out the safety car. Loose debris on track, you know, a car in a difficult to recover position. Unsurprisingly, that brings out the safety car. And, well, I'm just glad it wasn't a red flag, to be honest, because that would have put us in a very uncomfortable position. You know, it's only been 8 laps on these hards. I wonder if anyone's going to try and attempt to box under this safety car. I feel like it might just be a tad too early. A few people actually did. I think it was Hulkenberg, Perez, and Leclerc all did. So we might have to watch out for them at the end of the race now as well, because they might be doing a bit of an interesting strategy, maybe doing like a, I don't know, a medium hard or something like that. But we'll have to wait and see whether that proves to be true or not as we get onto the safety car restart now. And you can see I'm actually already quite far back from Magnussen, but we do manage to close him down a little bit towards turn 1. I was a little bit slow on the jump compared to these guys. You know, it happens sometimes. It is what it is. But yeah, that does mean that we are going to stay P4 ahead of Verstappen, but we're not going to be making up any positions on the restart like we sometimes can. It's just going to be us remaining in P4 for the time being. But I'm wondering now if these guys' medium tyres are going to start to go off anytime soon. You know, it's been 11 laps. I reckon they're going to be pitting within the next 5 or 6 laps if I had to guess. And lo and behold, I actually do manage to stay with Kevin Magnussen. The other 2 cars do break away, but Kevin Magnussen can't seem to get away from me. I think he's used the best of his mediums at this point. So we're piling a lot of pressure on him right now. You can see we're basically right on the back of his gearbox. And yeah, it's looking like we might even be looking to go for a move here in the DRS zone. I don't burn a lot of battery, but we're closing him down, and we brake just a little bit later than he does. We go wheel to wheel, and we manage to sneak our way up the inside through the chicane, and that is us through into P3 and onto the podium. And if we finish here, this will only be our 2nd ever podium in Formula 1. So yeah, this is going to be interesting to see if we can finish here. We're now looking at Esteban Ocon in the Alpine. They're running last, I'm pretty sure, the 2 Alpines, having an absolute shocker of a race. And things go from bad to worse for them, as Esteban Ocon is now retiring from the Grand Prix as well, with some kind of mechanical failure. Didn't see any smoke, so I think it might be gearbox related. And yeah, that's his race over. We're now into the pits on lap 18. I think most cars have already pitted. We were in net P3 when we pitted, so we'll see where we come out and see what the deal with the likes of Leclerc, Perez, and Hulkenberg is. I think they're going to be going through here. Yep, here goes Hulkenberg, Perez, and I think Leclerc's going to get through as well. So yeah, it's really interesting to see that actually we may have been outfoxed as far as strategy is concerned. We're looking at Dennis Hauger now, our teammate. He is yet to pit, I think, so hopefully we can clear him quite quickly. We did have the pit stop quickly, and that was all good. You know, we didn't have any issues, which meant we were able to come out ahead of Verstappen and Magnussen, which was nice. You can see Verstappen has also jumped Magnussen at this point. We managed to clear Hauger nice and quickly. Unfortunately, no team orders in this game yet, as much as people have been asking for it, and that would be a scenario where I think it would have been appropriate to have. Yeah, Hauger did choose to race me a little bit, but you know, we do still manage to clear him quite quickly, and we've already built a gap of 9/10 to Verstappen, so hopefully we can continue breaking away. We are on a faster compound of tyre now, and yeah, we'll see what's going on with these cars in front. Actually, at this point, I think Hulkenberg had pitted because he was actually on a set of soft compound tyres. And you see that Leclerc and also Perez are both on the medium compound tyres, and that's interesting because it means that they're probably pitting again, and you can see they're super slow. I actually went into the back of Leclerc there before immediately exceeding track limits. He's really slow, so I think we need to clear him quickly, or he's going to push us back into the cars behind. And so I'm going to go for a very audacious dive bomb here, and somehow we managed to pull the move off, and we do stay on the track. So we managed to get our way up into what is P4, and I think Perez is going to pit again, so this will become P3, and the podium is still on. Perez is now pitted as we move on to lap 23, and you can see that the cars in front are not actually too far in front anymore. I'm just about outside of Verstappen's DRS range behind, and Alonso and Russell have held each other up quite a lot, so I've actually managed to move into their DRS range as well, or at least in the DRS range of Alonso, who's obviously in Russell's DRS range, but still, you know, he's also going quite slowly through these corners. I guess it's the fact that they're on the hard compound tyres. My mediums have really come alive at this Grand Prix. You know, we had pretty decent pace on the hards, but now we're on the mediums. We're looking really strong, and I think we're actually going to go for the move here on Fernando Alonso, and we make our way up into P2, which is unreal. I actually can't believe that we have this level of pace here right now, and yeah, we're going to break into Russell's DRS range here as well, so maybe there exists a chance for us to take the lead of the Canadian Grand Prix. One of my weaker tracks on the calendar, I would say. I think a track that I never won at in F1 22, and we're looking like we actually might be able to take the lead here. I imagine what will happen, even if we do, is that we will probably take the lead, and then these cars, you know, the hards will come alive towards the end, my mediums will start to go off, and they'll reel me in. But at the moment, yeah, nothing of the sort going on right now. We're so close to George Russell that I'm actually going to burn a little bit more battery on the run to the hairpin and try and overtake him into the hairpin. We dive up the inside. We just about get it stopped in time. That was a very fair move from me. And what that means is not only are we ahead of him, but we're also going to have the DRS for the following straight, which means there's basically no chance for him to get back past us now. And that is us through and into the lead of the Canadian Grand Prix. And if we can show good pace, we could potentially even stay here for a number of laps, I reckon. You can see as we move now onto the end of lap 27 and the beginning of lap 28, we are over 4 seconds ahead of Alonso, who has now passed George Russell for second place, as Russell seems to be really struggling on these hard compound tyres. Something's just not working for him whatsoever. But yeah, they're not even close right now. We've pulled away, and we're continuing to pull away from Fernando Alonso as well. So this is looking really, really good for us right now. I think we are in with a real opportunity of staying in P1 for the remainder of the Grand Prix as things stand. I'll be very interested to see whether we can stay here or not. You know, with this 5-second buffer, even if our mediums do start to go off towards the end of the Grand Prix, I don't think they're going to go off so severely that we're not going to be able to stay here. You can see that the gap is still over 4 seconds as we begin lap 33 now. And with only 3 laps to go, Alonso would have to close me down all of a sudden by over a second per lap. And I'm just wondering whether he's taken the best out of those tyres or not. Russell's absolutely nowhere. I think he's heading a bit of a train at this point. You can see there's a massive train behind him, actually. And clearly he's really struggling on those hard compound tyres. I don't know if he got damaged at some point. We never made contact with him, so it must have been something else that caused it. But either way, yeah, that is devastating for him, who is having a really terrible time of things at the moment. And yeah, Alonso's still not looking like he's reeling us in. If anything, it looks like we're still getting further and further away. Our tyres are not that worn. They're in the sort of 30s, I think, roughly at the moment. So yeah, they're not looking too bad. But you would expect maybe the hard compound runners to start reeling us in by this point. But it just doesn't look like they're going to. You know, Alonso's still almost 5 seconds behind me as we move on to the final lap of the Grand Prix. And yeah, I mean, it doesn't really get any easier than this. We've just got a few corners left to go. We've got the hairpin and the final chicane, and that is going to be it. And if we can make sure that we don't do something stupid through the chicane, we've had 2 track limits warnings, so we do need to be careful not to get a penalty or anything. But even if we do get a penalty at this point, I honestly still think that we'll finish ahead of Alonso. It's only going to be a 3-second, and we've got almost a 5-second buffer. You know, George Russell 15 seconds down, and I don't know where this rapid pace has come from. We round the final corner, and through some absolute miracle from 7th on the grid, we are going to cross the line to win the Canadian Grand Prix. I do not understand where that pace comes from at all, but I'm not going to complain. I think we did deserve that race win. We were the fastest person on track, simply put. The strategy working beautifully for us on this occasion.
Well, that might not have been the finest race in history, but there's no question that was a critical win. Natalie, fill us in. What was it that helped the team achieve their success today?
What an amazing race today. We all love to see an overtake as a Formula One fan, and we got those by the bucket load.
Welcome then to the podium, our top 3 drivers. What a great effort from them today in a very difficult race.
The thing is, we can talk strategy all we like, but whilst I do think that helped, I think Natalie Pinkham had a point there of saying, you know, we saw overtakes. I overtook everyone that I passed in that race on track. Like, there was nothing to do with, like, you know, jumping people in the pits or anything like that. It was all on track overtaking. I made up 6 positions on track. So, yeah, maybe our car was just really suited to Canada. Maybe it was the setup. I don't know, but either way, we beat Alonso and Russell to take our first victory.
So let's have a quick look at how the drivers' standings have changed. It was not the best weekend for our championship leader, and their advantage at the top has been reduced. Let's focus on driver of the day, Natalie Pinkham. Come on, who do you pick?
I have to give it to Robinson.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. No change in the top spot, but with today's points, their hold on the lead is getting weaker. Meanwhile, good work from the owner-drivers team this weekend, who pushed themselves further up the order. And with that, we wrap up another weekend of motorsport. But with more races lined up, be sure to join us when we come back with more Formula One.
Well, just about everything that could go well went well there. We are now up into 5th in the driver's standings with that result, which is fantastic. And also, actually, the battle out front between Verstappen and Perez. Verstappen has closed the gap to just 3 points in that one, so things are really heating up in that battle. But also, we are up into that coveted 6th place in the constructors' standings, which is something that I was really hoping we would be able to get this season. Obviously, there's still a long way to go, and anything could happen. You know, Alpine and Ferrari and McLaren and all these teams could have a bit of a resurgence compared to us. It seems like our development rate is beginning to slow down a little bit, but with a race win under our belt, I feel like anything is possible at this point. You know, we could even potentially be challenging, Ferrari and maybe even the teams slightly further ahead for more positions in the constructors. I think that would be really exciting if we were able to do that. But we've jumped Alpine. We've stayed ahead of everyone else, obviously, that we were ahead of before because we outscored them. We were absolutely electrifying in that race. I think that's the best way we can describe it. I don't know what it was about this track that I just seemed to absolutely come alive today. You know, we had similar pace to the medium runners when we were on the hards, and then we absolutely battered them as soon as we got onto the mediums when they were on the hards. I don't really understand it because, you know, I've not like I said, I've not changed the difficulty or anything like that. We're still on 96. We lost that rivalry to Perez earlier in the season, pushed it down from 97 to 96, but that's still where we're running at the moment. You know, I can even, when we win this rivalry with Leclerc, you'll see that it's not changed. And I really, you know, I can't fathom what it was about this race in particular that seemed to go so well for me in terms of my pace. You know, I've had a number of tracks this season where I think I have good pace, like Jeddah, China, Spain, and, you know, yes, we got points in Spain, but generally speaking, you know, I didn't look amazing at any of those circuits, despite the fact that those are ones that I typically sort of tell myself those are my best circuits. And then I come to a track like Canada where I'm like, oh yeah, you know, it's just going to be keep out of the walls, don't get a penalty through any of the numerous chicanes that can absolutely ruin your day if you go 1 millimeter off track or whatever, you know, and somehow we managed to avoid all of that basically, and we won the race. The thing is, I'm obviously incredibly happy about it, but I'm just surprised. And even, you know, an hour later, after I finished recording the race, when I'm just doing the voiceover or whatever, I'm still equally surprised at what's happened here, because it was just so unexpected that we would have this level of pace. I feel like the sky is the limit, you know. If we can get this kind of result here, we can get this kind of result anywhere. You know, even at Singapore, which is one of my worst tracks on this year's game, I seem to be about 3 seconds a lap slower than most other people there. But, you know, maybe I need to have more faith in myself. Who knows? Because maybe Canada has turned into a track that actually is quite good for me. But either way, I don't even know what's next. I think it's Austria. That's a track that we typically do quite well at, so maybe we're going to be absolutely washed there. I have no idea. Who can really even say at this point what's going to happen? I can't bet on anything anymore. But that is going to be the end of the video. If you enjoyed, then please make sure you like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.